Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I like. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Person of Interest. This episode dealt heavily with the fact is that Harold's number has come up, basically saying that Samaritans found him. And it was kind of sad, like, how Samaritan ended up finding him, because it took Harold a little while to actually realize it, because there was that whole scene at the beginning, and the cafe lady was like, I feel like I recognize you, I remember orders and stuff like that. He's like, oh, I've never been here before. But later on in the episode, he remembers that place is where him and Grace first had their date 10 years ago. And, they put it together. Samaritan's not just looking at where they are now, like, trying to put it together. It put together a pattern based on where everything you've ever done. It's not just looking at them in the present. It is examining and ripping apart their past, looking for any chance to kind of bring back, like, use any information it gained from the past to find out where they're hiding now in the present. And it was able to see through his identities because of that. It was able to recognize, we found you, Harold, because of a slip up, an emotional slip up, something he probably chose that place, but he really didn't realize why he chose it. He thought it was like, oh, it's just a random place. But it's like, no, this place had very heavy significance to him. And it's like, it's understandable. It was 10 years ago he went there. So, but obviously that's just one part of this episode. Obviously the biggest parts of this episode is we lost two characters today. We lost Elias, which I was kind of like, because Harold wanted Elias not in this fight. He's like, dude, you're going to die. But he's like, they kind of made a metaphor to being in a boxing ring. And essentially Elias was like, I'd rather die in the ring than throw in a towel. And he had a whole bunch of different contingency plans. And it's like, because Elias is a very smart, calculated dude. But when you're up against something that makes thinks thousands of moves ahead, no matter how smart and calculating you are, you're outmatched. And he ended up dying. It's just like all his contingencies fell apart, his men were killed, and it was sad. Like, he tried his best to protect Harold. He tried to protect one of the few friends he had left alive, because he legitimately thought of Harold as a friend. Like, he's the only, because to him, Harold is probably like one of the smartest people he knows. Like, I think out of anyone that we've met in this show, like, Harold's one of the few people that can probably challenge Elias, like, mentally and stuff like that. And it also brought up a very interesting question of, like, Harold was like, basically it came up as to where they thought they would be. Like, if, out of this situation, where did they think they were going to end up? And Harold was like, honestly, I thought I was going to end up in prison. I mean, doing what he did, technically, it kind of comes up later on in the episode. Everything he's kind of done has been considered treason, and just all the illegal stuff he's done with the machine as well. So he assumed he would be in prison. And Elias was like, funny, me too. But, I had Elias, and then obviously even sadder, freaking Root, dude. I was like, the moment we saw that reveal, I was like, because the machine, he basically gave the machine an opportunity to choose a voice for itself, because it's never really had a voice. It's always taken, like, bits and pieces of kind of like dialogue from other people to, give the numbers, but it have a voice of its own. And it chose Root's voice, and then it cuts to, like, Fusco standing over her body. It's like, no, that was so sad on multiple levels. But the one thing that got me thinking is, like, at the beginning of the season, you kind of heard a voiceover from Root saying, like, oh, like, we might not be alive, we might be dead. So I can only assume that was the machine talking. That might not, unless it's a message that Root had left that we just haven't heard yet. But I'm thinking, looking back now at this point, is like, that was the machine using her. That's because that's the voice she chose, because for one, like, one of the people she cares about most is dead now. And it's just like, oh, and it's so messed up, because her and Shaw just got back. They just reunited, and it's just, to me, it hurts so much more because of literally yesterday's episode, where I talked about the fact is, hey, like, I already heard, these notions that the season isn't going to end well, that pretty much everyone's going to end up dead. And it's like, next episode, one of the main characters drops, along with Elias. I mean, like, we thought he died last season, and just for him to be revealed, like, oh, I'm alive. But it's still, like, the fact of the matter is that they chose to fight. They didn't, even in Elias's case, he knew it was like a very uneven battle, but he still chose to fight because he wasn't going to go down without swinging, and it's so messed up. And especially because of the whole thing with Shaw, because, like, Shaw's still struggling with, like, oh, whether this is a simulation or not. And that whole little speech during the gunfight that Root was trying to give to her, basically saying, like, essentially that everything's a like we're kind of life in itself is a simulation. So like basically during the gunfight, it's like let's be a noise. If we're going to be like a sound, then let's join together and become like a crescendo or something. It was so beautiful, and it's just like did her talking to Harold, basically trying to convince him that, you know, closing down the machine wasn't a good idea, that because I was in the back of my mind, I was so hopeful. I was like, okay, let this whole thing be a simulation. It's a simulation. And then we're getting to the end. It's like, no, it's not. And Ruth's gone. It's like, no, it sucks, dude. It sucks big time, man. Because Root had, like, he had closed down the machine, but Root had snuck a program in there saying, like, basically I armed her, but she won't act on that, you know, what she's been armed with unless you give her the orders, Harold. She'll only act on your orders. And that's what we kind of got at the end of the episode. I mean, because it's very interesting because, like, I like that whole speech Harold gave, too, in the interrogation when he's being interrogated by that, I guess he's an FBI agent, and essentially he's like, the guy's thinking he's talking to him, but he's like, no, I'm talking to, you know, he's talking to Samaritan. And he's basically like, he's lived by these certain rules, like lines he won't cross. He's like, okay, we have to go follow these rules. And he thought, like, as long as I follow these rules, we'll come out on top. But he's like, the fact of the matter is, my hubris of wanting to follow these rules because, I mean, Root is dead, did, and will continue with the rest of the group, get them killed, get the rest of my friends killed. Because I've been so adamant about following this rule. I could continue to follow these rules and continue to let my friends die, or I can cut my losses with these rules. Decide how many of my own rules am I willing to break to make sure you die, so that I can make sure my friends survive. Because at the very beginning, there was that whole speech he had with the machine that, like, he's like, I accept, from when I accepted this battle a long time ago, that, you know, probably even before Samaritan even became an issue, but back when he was starting out this mission with trying to deal with the numbers, he accepted the fact that he was going to die, but all these other people that have been drawn into this fight, these people he considers friends, who are close and dear to him, he's like, please, in some path, you can't talk to me right now, but I hope that you can tell me that on some path that you've seen, upon the millions of paths that you've seen cross, like, hope that my friends come out of this alive. That's the only thing he cares about. He's like, he knows that he's not going to make it out of it, and he's fine with that. He accepted it a long time ago, but he wants at least his friends to survive this. Because even throughout the episode, he was just kind of telling them, please don't do this. Let me die. Like, if me dying stops all this, then let me die. You're like, for instance, he was telling that to John, is like, don't go through all this for me. And John's protecting him because he's a friend, but he's also like, you're a number now. I'm just doing the job that you hired me for. And it's just like, dude, but, you know, it is interesting because, like, Harold has always kind of gone by the book on every situation, try to do the less evil of the outcome. But it's like, against a monster like this, against, you know, these people he's lost already, you know, now he's like, I have to break all my rules, and it seems like he's arming the machine. It's like, where do we go from here? Because it seems like we have a very heartbroken and angry Harold at the very end of it. He's like, can you get me out of here? She's like, I can do anything. You just have to kind of ask me for it, Harold. And it's just like, like the machine is kind of unleashed now. I mean, that's what I'm interpreting it as we've got Harold with an unleashed machine by his side. And it was just like, okay, Samaritan never wanted him dead, because that came up in episodes, because Samaritan actually wants Harold on its side. It needs his help with something. And basically, what's the dude's name, the old man that kind of serves under, is it Grove? No, that's Root's last name, isn't it? Yeah, Miss Groves. But I forgot his name, but he was like, the machine, eventually one day, I don't know how soon it would be or how far into the future it would be, one day you will choose to help the machine of your own volition. Because Harold was like, if you're going to kill me, just kill me. Just, you know, I'm not going to tell you where the machine is. I'm not going to tell you where my friends are. But I was thinking, like, my mind was like, okay, so they're going to try and hook him up to a simulation to kind of mess with him. But it didn't get that far. But it's just like, because I was also scared too. I was like, okay, like that whole, like, Shaw was like, okay, Root, you take Harold and you go. I was like, oh God, this is where Shaw dies, doesn't it? Because that's why I was like, okay, Shaw dies, but it's going to be a simulation. But it's kind of like, of course they're not going to kill Shaw. They literally went through hell. Like, obviously they went through a lot to bring her back to the team. But it's just like not even that long reunited with Ruth. They finally found each other again. She found her way back home, you know, to the team, and just like, to me, the only lighthearted part of this episode was when there was someone was opening the door, everyone had their guns pointed at it, and then Fusco walks into her. Yeah, I love you too. That was the like most lighthearted aspect of this episode, because we're like winding down, because I looked at the preview, because apparently there might not be an episode next Monday. From what it said, it seemed like only Tuesday, so maybe because we're nearing the end of the season, I don't know, maybe they're going to do like, because there's only 3 episodes left, maybe next week is going to be 1 episode, and then on the Tuesday after next, they'll do like a 2-hour finale or something like that. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they'll do it 1 week at a time. I'd kind of prefer if they did do like, you know, they've already doubled up on episodes. Like last week, they did one. Tuesdays was 2 episodes, so maybe they'll do that for the finale. So, but it's just like, that was just, to me, it's very interesting, because it's like, I kind of lost track of it, but I'll go back to it. The fact is, John brought up the fact is, because Shaw was like, so why Samaritan doesn't want Harold dead, so why did his number come up? It's because, and John said, maybe it's because he wanted to stop, he knew what he would be capable of, so he wanted to stop himself. Like, his number was thrown out there as a possibility, because his number was thrown out there because of what he might do. And it's with the situation being what it is and breaking his own rules, he's kind of unleashed himself. So it's like a sorrowful and angry Harold wanting to destroy and dismantle Samaritan, to kill it for what it's done, for all the people that's died. And something Root had brought up earlier in this episode, and maybe that's something Harold's going to keep in mind, but I mean, he's probably so brokenhearted that it probably won't stick. Is the fact of the matter is, because Root brought up the fact is everything's kind of a simulation, the machine has got to know them so well. It's able to make all these predictions and all these calculations because it knows them so well. It knows how they'd feel, how they'd act. And it's saying that, you know, even though Elias and even Carter are going, that somewhere in the machine, it's still keeping them alive. Not necessarily in like an afterlife format, but the fact is, the data that made, you know, what the machine has gathered about those two people exists somewhere in that machine, that like, and it will never go away. It will always stay with the machine. That's how I like to interpret it. Like, to me, maybe she didn't interpret it for it to be interpreted that way, but I'd like to think that that's her version of the afterlife, and maybe that's what we'll get at the end of this. Like, when I hope they don't all die, but maybe that's how this ends, with them all dying. But somehow, you know, when it's all said and done, they still will exist within the machine. The machine, when it's all said and done, will carry on this mission of trying to do the right thing, even when they're all gone. But it will always carry them with it, because in a way, the team is kind of its family. It's grown attached to these people. It's come to love and care for them, especially Harold, because Harold is her father, you know. So, and I've always thought that was very interesting that, you know, the machine was always personified as a lady. I think Samaritan's kind of always been personified as a male. I mean, interesting, considering the fact is that Root is the analog interface, you know, her being a girl, and then like the interface for Samaritan is a little boy. So, you know, maybe that's also how you can interpret that too. So that shows you that Samaritan is a boy, whereas the machine is a lady. Maybe that's just me reading too much into it, but it's just, I don't know how these events are going to unfold. It's like, we're already one soldier down, like one person down, and it's just like heartbreaking. And it's just like, everyone's probably like, it's not just Harold that's in pain. Let's not forget Shaw's in pain. You know, it's just like, you weren't expecting. I was like, okay, Fusco's going to get to the hospital and check up on her. He's going to have to defend her. Because at that point, I was still thinking it's a simulation. But then it shows him looking over her dead body. It's like, oh my God. And it ended up being, what was that dude's name? What was his name? Jeff? The guy that the machine kind of, Samaritan had recruited. Like, we seen, like, you know, him kind of doing something. It's just like, I can't, like, I hate the fact that it's him. Like, he did all this, like, he joined Samaritan because he just needed a job. He was like a convict that, you know, he tried to do the best that he could. But now I remember, because I was like, there was someone else that existed within the machine that Root brought up, but I couldn't remember who, and it's Nathan, because that was another person that was close to the machine as well as close to Harold. And, you know, those are the 3 people that have died in this whole situation, everything connected to the machine, like who've died, that, Carter's death was kind of slightly unrelated to the machine. I mean, because that was more of the HR situation in season 3, but still, nevertheless, it is heartbreaking. And but those are 3 people that he cared about the most: Nathan, Carter, as well as Elias. They became very important people to him. So I don't know, but I kind of lost track of what I was saying. That I've kind of already lost the point. But that's honestly, it's just kind of really all I want to kind of talk about in this episode. It's just that just broke my heart finding out she was dead, dude. I was so hoping it, maybe like Fusco will fight to protect her, that she's, getting well, but it's just like, now I remember what point I was trying to make. It's that guy, Jeff, it's sad because like you kind of felt bad for him because he was kind of put in a situation not knowing what he was doing, but he killed Root, dude. And I don't know whether it's going to be Shaw or whether it's going to be Harold, but I feel like one of them is going to track him down and kill. It's like you can't 100% blame him because he is an ex-con and he was just trying to get his life back together. And, at that time they were trying to like determine whether the machine is glitching or not. And they thought like, okay, the machine messed up when it gave him his number. Like things would be way different if they were able to get to him before Samaritan did, but maybe he could have been part of the team. I don't know, but it's just... Or maybe he could have just been kind of kept out of Samaritan's sight or something like that. I don't know. But it's just, I am very curious to see where we go from here. Like I said, 3 episodes left, and there's no telling how this whole situation is going to unmap. Because next week's episode, without spoiling it for the preview, it does seem like something very, very interesting is going down. The number of next week is very, very interesting, and I'll leave it at that. But, yeah, once again, that's right now is really all I wanted to say. But, till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye. I guess, like, a little note to kind of end on, like, at this end. I'm sorry, like, I probably won't bother cutting this in, but I'll just go ahead and say it's a little sad. That means we won't be seeing Amy Acker for the rest of the series. Season series. Like I said, still don't know about that situation, but the way things are is kind of like it might be a series, but meaning we won't be seeing her. We'll probably be hearing her voice most likely because that's how the machine's going to be communicating from now on. But we won't be seeing her. It's just like, which is a shame, but because I would probably say like this is probably one of my favorite characters I've ever seen Amy Acker play, with the exception of Fred from Angel. Just 2 of my favorite characters I've ever seen her play, and they're very different spectrums. They have like that. I feel like that's probably a little bit of her own personality mixed into the characters, but like that kind of like that lovable side of her characters. I don't know, like Fred was kind of like a bookworm kind of lovable self, and it's just, and you have Root who's just very lovable. I don't know what computer genius. It's just like she was all, that line also kind of brought up in the episode is like Root was like, I was 12 years old. I've been running since I was 12 years old, and like being with this group, being with you, he was talking specifically to Shaw, it's like the first time she ever felt like she really belonged. So it's just like I will forever love this character, and Amy Acker her portrayal of this character is just phenomenal, and I would just miss seeing that. It's like I said, we'll hear the voice with her playing the machine, but that's probably as far as I'll go. So I'll miss seeing her around, but I just want to tack that in on the end. I mean, knowing me, I'll probably end up cutting it out, but just in case I don't, that's still going to be there. So bye.